interested and dying to know all about the Porsche. So let's just make sure. Oh, thank you very much. So a lot of people are probably wondering, what's the relationship between QNX and cars and all of the rest of that? QNX has actually been in automotive for a little bit more than 10 years now. We're actually responsible for a lot of different infotainment systems in cars you probably have never even thought of were QNX based. So, you know, some other companies have their brand name on a lot of stuff, and we actually are kind of the silently quiet but majority of a lot of vehicles. You can see there's a lot of cars there. We're in over 40 different car makers, about 25 million different vehicles on the road, and over 275 different vehicle platforms. And that includes all kinds of things from telematics. Telematics are systems like OnStar that can communicate with the car and the vehicle. Infotainment systems, that generally means navigation, multimedia, all kinds of things like that. Hands-free, so all kinds of hands-free dialing systems, as well as digital instrument clusters. So things like on the Jaguar, Land Rover, Ford F-150, anywhere where you're actually taking the analog cluster and replacing it with a digital one. So we have technology that goes into those cars, and a lot of that actually has a relationship between not only the car, but the carriers as well. So, you know, that's part of the reason for us to bring the Porsche here and to show kind of the integration that we have from a QNX standpoint with all the BlackBerry and the Ring vehicles. A lot of it has to do with trying to have a platform that allows more services to be brought to the car. So the fact that we can connect mobile devices, your BlackBerry, or even other devices to the car means that you've got the ability to have a conduit to bring those services into the vehicle. Another thing that definitely will have you come over to the car later, but to see, is the Ultra HD Voice, which is something that we've got a demo of, which is really the ability to have high bandwidth stereo telephony to the vehicle. So having unmatched call quality. This is the same technology that's currently in the Playbook 2.0 video chat. And that's something that you can do and get a demo of in the Porsche. It's really actually, it's one thing that's cool to talk about, but it's another thing to actually experience it and listen to it. And then just in general, just showing a lot of the things that RIM and QNX together, you know, are able to bring from a telematics as well as an end-to-end or a machine-to-machine standpoint. So we'll start with what QNX in the car means, and that's the QNX Car 2 application platform. So this is really taking the BlackBerry Playbook software stack, which QNX was responsible for building and putting into the Playbook, and then adding a lot of the things that are requirements for an automotive-centric point of view. So the things that you need to do are, clearly you don't want to have swipes and that kind of stuff on a Playbook in the dash. So you have to actually take a lot of those tablet-type features out and replace them with things that are appropriate from a car point of view. So one of those is HTML5. There's a big movement around that a lot of the car makers are around bringing HTML5 into the car, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. But one of the biggest is that reduces the time span of development from the car maker's traditional 3-year development window to something that's more in line with consumer electronics, something that's very, very fast. A lot of other consumer technologies like NFC, you'll see all the different tag points all around the RIM booth here. Those are all NFC. The same thing is bringing that kind of technology into the vehicle as well. So, and the type of applications that it enables are things like key fobs or any other kind of thing to personalize or customize the vehicle. There's automotive-specific technologies that we add as well. So there's all the access to the vehicle bus and, you know, that either CAN or MOST or any of the underlying facilities of the vehicle that you need to bring into that infotainment system. You've got to be able to set the amplifiers. You've got to be able to query the climate control system, know when, you know, the doors open and that kind of stuff. And that's something that we enable. Automotive hardening is another thing. So the Playbook is built as a consumer electronic device. It doesn't have expectations of being able to power on instantly with, you know, the kind of requirements that you need for a backup camera, or to be able to respond within 50 milliseconds of wake up for vehicle bus messages. And those are the kind of things that automakers expect. So we have to add that kind of stuff to the platform. And And then finally, I kind of alluded to it before, but there's a driver-friendly user experience. So the ability to have something that you don't have to, look at the display, but you can actually have hard buttons and push at, and you can instantly get to where you want to go and just try not to distract the user. There's a lot of different things from a feature highlight point of view that we can talk about. I'm going to just touch on each one of these just to give you kind of a flavor for that. There's navigation, we've got different kinds of integrations, and I should point out that all of the software that we're talking about from a car point of view is, a lot of it is the idea of a pre-integrated stack. So we know that car companies want their own version of the software, their own HMI potentially, their own navigation suppliers, their own voice recognition. So a lot of it is to provide all of the fundamental framework pieces that allow you to integrate those technologies in, but to do it in a way that makes it so that you can do that and still keep all the overarching application pieces the same. So the other aspect are all the infotainment and social media pieces. So there's definitely all the connectivity that you need for just standard radio kind of features. So that standard radio has actually evolved to a lot more multimedia, a lot more connectivity to devices. Playing comes off of USB sticks, playing comes off of iPods. There's also all the internet radio features. So Pandora, Stitcher, those kind of technologies are bringing into the vehicle as well. For rear seat applications, there's things like web browser, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. So if you've got a rear seat application, clearly you're not going to be doing Twitter while you're driving, but there are applications where you can integrate in some of those features to driving experience as well. So the fact that your car may automatically tweet when you get within a certain radius of your favorite coffee spot and let your friends know that you're there. There are types of applications that you can do even from a driver's standpoint that we're actually using. Automotive is another set of features. Those are automotive-specific things, like the ability to do climate control, the ability to actually have a virtual mechanic which gets diagnostics off of the vehicle bus, looks those up and finds out, from whatever the appropriate thing is, whether you should pull over and call a tow truck or whether you can keep on going. And then things to set up audio control. All of the things around connectivity, so this is various different Bluetooth features that are pretty much standard, as well as things like SMS and texting that are not. MirrorLink, which is a technology for bringing phone applications into the car, as well as iCutout, a similar type of thing for Apple. Smartphone with HTML5, this is something that we're actually pushing, the ability to have the application, just like BlackBerry Bridge, bring its interface from a phone into the car. And then certainly all of the things around BlackBerry App World, so the ability to take applications and enable cars to have an App Store-like experience. Then finally, we've got all the platform pieces. So the ability to have all the underlying components like HTML5 using the Torch browser that we actually have on all the BlackBerry phones, as well as the Playbook Composition Manager, the same technology that allows us to do all of the various different graphical compositions that you can see on the Playbook, and the HTML5 framework pieces from an automotive standpoint. So I mentioned earlier that HTML5 is a really important thing for automotive, and there's a number of reasons why that is. There's a lot of things that the car makers are looking at in terms of solutions for their HMI technology. One is the ecosystem. This is probably the biggest one, and that is that HTML5 gives a car maker the ability to leverage developers, tools, companies, frameworks, libraries, all of those kind of things that are being built outside for other different applications, and being able to not necessarily use them exactly the same, but leverage those same assets within the vehicle. Car makers are very, very interested in trying to make their software relevant and their software fresh. And everybody's had the experience of getting in a car and going, this is like 5-year-old technology. What the heck am I dealing with here? Why do I have to put up with this garbage? So this is one of the things car makers are looking at to try to make sure that they can try to reduce that lifespan so that when you get a vehicle, it's still relevant, even though it's been designed 3 years earlier. Standards is another one. car makers are very interested in trying to prevent vendor lock-in. It's something that they use to ensure the purchasing and ensure that they actually can say there's more than one company that provides technology. When you say that HTML5 is their application platform, that automatically means there's more than one company to provide a solution. Flexibility is something that allows you to build application models that move from both the car or the mobile or the cloud and kind of mix pieces of those depending on how you actually see that application. So an example might be you have a navigation solution. In some markets you might want to move that to the cloud, and in other markets you might want to actually move it into the car. An example of that would be you want things in the cloud that are very, very fast moving, like points of interest or location-based data. But you want things that are resident on the vehicle for stuff that doesn't change very often, and you might want to always have access to, even if you don't have connectivity. So if you're driving out very far out in the west in the US, for example, you don't have access to a lot of things. So you might want to know where the nearest gas station is. So there's a good way to mix those kind of things with HTML5. Branding is another big one where the ability to use HTML5 and use different cascading style sheets gives you the ability to have the same application and brand it differently depending on the car maker, depending on the model of the vehicle. And as well, you may be able to take applications that are built for mobile and turn them into more car-like applications by clever use of some of the CSS features in HTML5. Lifespan, just the fact that HTML standards have been around for a long time. HTML5 would be one that will stick around for a long time. Time to market is another one where you have the ability to say that you're going to be delivering things a lot quicker based on this HTML5 framework for automotive than some of the other kind of frameworks that we built. Certainly from a rich application development environment, that's one where you've got all of the tools to build very powerful websites to replace tools like Flash, to replace other kind of environments, and you'll be able to do that with HTML5. That same capability carries over to the car. And then the last one is also a key one to stress, and that is cross-platform, which means a car maker can take an application that they build for a phone that has a very specific purpose, and then be able to pull parts of that into the vehicle. Or if they've got the same ability to take those kind of technologies and leverage them across multiple different phones. HTML5 is the one thing that actually bridges all of the different phones. So if you look at an iPhone or Android or BlackBerry or a Win 7 phone, you can be able to build applications in HTML5 on all of those using technology like PhoneGate. So it makes sense to use that same framework into the automotive as well. What we're showing over in the Porsche has pieces of what we're building for QNX Car 2 application platform. We've actually gotten a number of different quotes on here. I won't actually read through this, and we'll actually just skip through to something else that I want to talk to, which is the hands-free experience. So hands-free, the calling that we provide in the video chat application on the Playbook is something that every car needs to have. It's becoming more of a thing where those technologies are being mandated as a result of either driver legislation laws or driver distraction laws, so that you don't have to, you can't use phones while driving. And so most cars will be enabled to have this type of technology, and many already do, Bluetooth. And that's really the ability. This is much more than just the standard phone. You've got to be able to deal with the acoustics of the cabin, deal with the road noise in the cabin. All of those kind of components really compete against the ability to translate a full and clear call to the other side. The technology that we have is actually being deployed in a lot of cars today. That first slide that I showed where we had 25 million vehicles on the road, there's a lot of those that have QNX-based hands-free technology in them as well. There's a lot of specific things that we do for the automotive environment that actually enables that. Things like wind removal, which is the ability to take those kind of noises that they can get with microphones where either defrosters are blowing over it, you've got open windows, you've got a convertible even, which is an absolute worst case, and to take those kind of buffet sounds out of the signal. And some of these other things like high frequency encoding and bandwidth extension are ways for us to try to make the signals sound better, even though it's being highly compressed over the carrier wavelength. So you're sampling it down with the codecs, and you're actually dropping a lot of that signal. So we do a number of different things, to look at that signal and then try to fill in some of the missing harmonics, or actually recreate some of that spectrum so it sounds much more natural. The other thing are just, some of the other capabilities that we bring specifically for the car, which are tuning capabilities or diagnostic tools. So from that standpoint in the vehicle side, there's a lot of things that you can actually do, even with what we've already done, and that is to enable the wideband or full band audio. So if you're not using a standard cellular codec, and you've actually got either a voice over IP, or you're using something else, maybe over the top, or maybe something else that's actually on the carrier frequency to provide quality of service, you can get a lot of clarity there. So this, you're transmitting both stereo, so you've got a left and right feel, so you can get a much more of a dynamic sense of the person on the remote end, as well as transmitting, the full bandwidth. So this is really something that I would definitely encourage you, if you have an opportunity, sit in the Porsche and listen to it for yourself, because it makes a huge difference when you're actually getting a full bandwidth call with both channels compared to what you actually normally get on a cell phone. And it improves intelligibility in the car side hugely, as well as just improving the richness of the experience. So finally, I'm going to end with, we're here as a proud part of RIM to help enable a lot of the technologies that RIM's driving forward. Certainly on the automotive side, we're actually doing quite a bit to drive the automotive side specifically. But then the connectivity to the BlackBerry devices, such as the Playbook, being able to actually use the phone and then use PIM within the vehicle, just like BlackBerry Bridge does, a lot of other things like that. We definitely want you to come and take a look at the Porsche, see some of the technologies that we'll be rolling out in future vehicles. Basically, this is a showcase for us to kind of show what we're trying to drive into the vehicle, and we definitely want you guys to experience it. So, any questions?